Okay, and let me also mute all. And I'm also going to share my screen where we left off. There we go. Okay, I have a Band-Aid on my thumb. There you go. There. Okay. So, we left off. Okay, let me say the bracha Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shekitzanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. We left off last time talking about how dangerous it is to be around non-Jews, and how to be sure what kind of tricks to do to try to avoid getting hurt or killed by non-Jewish thieves. So if you're traveling and non-Jews join you, you tell them that you're going further than you're going, so that while they're planning and plotting to kill you, you will have jumped off the caravan because you've arrived at your spot. So that's where we were last time. And now we're getting to a couple of stories to highlight that, and then we're getting on to a new Mishnah. So patience through these stories until we get through to the next Mishnah. The Gemara illustrates this idea, that is telling non-Jews you're going further than you're really going, through a relevant story. An incident occurred involving several students of Rabbi Akiva who were traveling to Kaziv. Now, here's a map. There is a map here. Okay, so from where, here's Kaziv, apparently, according to this map. This is Akko, which appears in the story. Down here, this little, in modern Israel, this is Haifa right here. So this is Akko, Kaziv, and now we're in Lebanon. This is Tyre and Sidon. Okay, so the story. The students of Rabbi Akiva were traveling to Kaziv. Along the way, bandits encountered them and said to them, "Where are you going?" Rabbi Akiva's students said to them, "To Akko." So if this is the shorter versus, so wherever they were starting from, they must have been starting north, heading south. So because they're telling them they're going to Kaziv, but they told the bandits they're going to Akko. Okay, so there you see it on the map. Rabbi Akiva's students said that to them to Akko. Once they reached Kaziv, Rabbi Akiva's students separated from the bandits. At this point, the bandits said to them, "Whose students are you?" The students said to the bandits, "We are students of Rabbi Akiva." The bandits said to them, "Fortunate are Rabbi Akiva and his students, as they were never harmed by an evil person." The bandits, were impressed with the wisdom that the students demonstrated in evading harm. Okay, so this is a ridiculous story. For the simple point is that if they were bandits, they would have done harm to them. So the bandits are foils in this story, made out to be looking like the Keystone Cops, and not knowing what they're doing. And the bandits are made to seem to be knowledgeable of rabbis and their students. What kind of bandits would be like that? It's or to even show respect for rabbis and their students. So this is a perfect example of a totally made up story by the rabbis that that are totally not reflective of truth or in any way, and written for the express purpose of highlighting the brilliance of the rabbis. Okay, so you have witless bandits who are knowledgeable of Jewish tradition, and then acknowledge the brilliance of Rabbi Akiva and his students. Okay, another story. the Gemara relates another incident. Rav Menashe was traveling to Beit Torta, okay, and there's no map for that. Along the way, thieves encountered him and said to him, "Where are you going?" Rav Menashe said to them, "To Pumbedita, which was farther away than Beit Torta." Okay, so this is a Babylonian story telling the same thing. So the cities where the Babylonian Jews lived were along the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. Pumbedita was one of the major, one of the larger cities that they lived in. Sura was another. Mechoza was another. Those are the three that I'm most familiar with, and the largest of these cities. Beit Torta, another one. Okay, so Menashe was going to Beit Torta. Along the way, thieves encountered him and said to him, "Where are you going?" Rav Menashe said to them, "To Pumbedita, which is farther away than Beit Torta." When he arrived at Beit Torta, he separated from the thieves who had planned to steal from him. They said to him, "You are a student of Yehuda the swindler." Rav Menashe said to them, "Do you know him so well that you can accuse him of swindling others? May it be God's will that these people be subject to Rav Yehuda's ban of excommunication." Okay, so taking the story one step further, these bandits lost out on a chance of swindling Rav Menashe, and somehow these students know that Rav Menashe is the student of Rav Yehuda, and then Menashe excommunicates these bandits. Again, assuming
they'd be Jewish bandits.
Right, assuming that they're Jewish bandits, because Jews can't excommunicate non-Jews. So the likelihood of, well, I guess there are Jews can be bandits anywhere in the world, but they're in Babylonia, so you would think that the majority population is Babylonian, not Jewish. It's one thing for the students of Rabbi Akiva traveling in the land of Israel that there would be more Jews there, but here in Babylonia, yes, there's a significant Jewish population there, but you would imagine that there would have been Babylonian thieves. But I guess the story only works. Well, no, that's not true. The story is about how to get it. Okay, the story, the law is about how to get around non-Jewish thieves. So the first story highlights, again, showing how ridiculous the story is. What would non-Jews know about rabbis and their students? And how would non-Jews know about Jewish law, about this whole idea of Jews taking a shortcut? And then the idea that law made it to Babylonia also.
Okay. What's the word for bandits?
The word for is probably listin. Here in this story, it's ganave. Okay. In the other story, it was listim. So it's essentially the same thing. The Gemara continues. This curse, the curse of excommunication, was effective as the thieves subsequently went and carried out thefts for 22 years, but they were unsuccessful. Once they saw that their efforts were for naught, they all went and claimed their curse. That is, they asked forgiveness and requested that the curse be lifted, that they not be excommunicated anymore. But there was one weaver among them who did not come to lift his curse, and a lion ate him. The Gemara notes that this explains the adage that people say, with regard to a weaver who is not shy but impudent, a year is deducted from his allotted years. Okay, so there's a note here on the side to try to explain what this adage is about, a weaver who is not shy. Rashi explains that the average weaver is considered a brazen individual. This expression means that a weaver who lacks a sense of humility is destined for a premature death, like the unrepentant weaver in the story who is the only one who refused to repent. Others interpret this proverb as an instruction. If he is brazen, shorten his life. Okay. With regard to these two anecdotes, the Gemara comments, come and see what the difference is between the thieves of Babylonia and the bandits of Eretz Yisrael. Although thieves are typically less violent than bandits, the thieves in Babylonia reacted to Rav Menashe's action by denouncing Rav Yehuda, whereas the bandits in Eretz Yisrael praised the wisdom of Rabbi Akiva. Okay. Often sections of Gemara end with stories to kind of highlight the lessons from the stories. Okay, let's go on to the next Mishnah, new topic. A Jewish woman may not deliver the child of a Gentile woman, because in doing so, she is delivering a child who will engage in idol worship. But one may allow a Gentile woman to deliver the child of a Jewish woman. Similarly, a Jewish woman may not nurse the child of a Gentile woman, but one may allow a Gentile woman to nurse the child of a Jewish woman while the Gentile woman is on the Jewish woman's property. Okay, so hopefully this will get into some fascinating stuff in the Gemara. So, a Jewish woman who's a midwife is not allowed to work as a midwife for a Gentile woman because you will be aiding and abetting idol worship. That is, you're not only helping the woman deliver a baby, but that baby is going to be an idolater. So a Jew is not allowed to aid and abet idolatry in any way, even by being a midwife for a non-Jew. So this does not apply today, clearly, for two reasons. One is that there's no idol worship anymore. I mean, you have to go into the wilds of Africa to find idol worship. So there's no idol worship today, so this is not an issue. And secondly, the issue of saving a life should outweigh it doesn't outweigh idol worship. Saving a life does not outweigh idol worship. But since idol worship is not an issue anymore, then saving a life would outweigh any kind of feelings we might have towards non-Jews. So you have the skill as a midwife, you have to use those skills for Jews and non-Jews alike. Today, that would be the impact of this law, because you can't apply the idol worship to this. Now, here, on the one hand, we're saying in the Mishnah that a Jewish midwife cannot work for a Gentile woman because of idolatry, but we, the Jewish community, is allowed to hire a non-Jewish woman, an idolatrous woman, to be a midwife for a Jew. So if you're one Jew in the midst of idol worshipers, wherever you're living, you can have a Gentile woman deliver your baby. But if you happen to be an idol worshiper yourself, a Jew, if you happen to be a midwife yourself amidst non-Jews, you're non-Jewish idolaters, you're not allowed to do that work. Similarly, a Jewish woman may not nurse, so you can't nurse, so you can't midwife, and you can't be a nursemaid to Gentile women because of the same thing. You're adding and abetting idolatry. But one may allow a Gentile woman to nurse the child of a Jewish woman only on Jewish property, right? You can't drop off your baby at non-Jewish daycare and have in the non-Jewish home, have the non-Jewish woman nurse your Jewish baby. That you can't do, but you can have a non-Jewish nanny in your home nurse your baby, because imagine that the non-Jewish woman is following the rules of the household, and it'd be harder for the non-Jew to bring in idolatry into the Jewish home. Okay, so this is, we'll see where the Gemara goes with all of this. The Gemara cites a dispute related to the ruling of the Mishnah. The sages taught a Jewish woman may not deliver the child of a Gentile woman, because in doing so, she's delivering a child who will engage in idol worship. And one may not allow a Gentile woman to deliver the child of a Jewish woman because Gentiles have suspected a bloodshed. This is a statement of Rabbi Meir. So now here's a baraita. So we have in our Mishnah that the Gentile woman is allowed. We're allowed to have a Gentile woman deliver the child of a Jewish woman. But Rabbi Meir says no, because you might think that the Gentile midwife is going to kill the baby. So you don't want to put yourself in harm's way, according to Rabbi Meir. So the Mishnah says it's okay. You're not going to worry about bloodshed there, but Rabbi Meir is worried. And the rabbis say one may allow a Gentile woman to deliver the child of a Jewish woman when other women are standing over her, watching her actions, but not when they are alone together. So the rabbis say it's okay if there are other people around, other women around. So in other words, usually a woman, no, not usually, yes, usually in ancient times, you're living among your family. Not going too far away, as opposed to today where, kids live far away from home and they could be all alone. Back then, everybody's staying in town, in their village. So when a woman is going to give birth, she's going to have family members around. So if a Gentile midwife is called in, you don't have to worry about bloodshed because there are people watching. There are people going to be in the room, and they would be able to catch the woman if she tries to strangle the baby or whatever, she break the neck of the baby or whatever she's going to do. So the rabbis say, Rabbi Meir, we don't agree with Rabbi Meir. We think that as long as there are other people around, it's okay. And Rabbi Meir says, even when other women are standing over her, one may not allow a Gentile woman to deliver the child of a Jewish woman, because there are times when the midwife places her hand on the infant's temple and kills him by applying pressure to the area, and then the act is not seen. So Meir says, no, it doesn't matter that the other women are around. There is still time, I don't know, wrapping the baby in swaddling or whatever it is, cutting the umbilical cord, who knows? There's time for the midwife to act quickly without anybody knowing what happened. Okay. On to the next page. The Gemara relates a story that validates this concern. So, in other words, there's a story that kind of highlights that Rabbi Meir is right. This is like that incident involving a certain Gentile woman who said to her fellow Gentile, "You are the midwife of Jewish women, the daughter of a midwife of Jewish women." This was meant as an insult. In response, the other Gentile said to her, "May as many evils befall that woman, that is you, as the number of Jewish infants that I have killed, as I extract blood for them like the foam of a river." This Gentile midwife claimed to have caused the deaths of many Jewish children. Then you wonder, why would this midwife continue to be a midwife for Jewish women? If she's known to have killed so many Jewish infants in the process, why is this Jewish woman, this non-Jewish woman, continuing to work for Jewish women? So, in other words, the Gemara is aware of, seemingly aware of what's happening in the Gentile world and how women are talking to each other, and that it would be an insult in the Gentile world to be called to work for Jewish women as a midwife. The Gemara clarifies the opinion of the rabbis, and the rabbis who are not concerned to the same extent as Rabbi Meir would say to you that is not so. It was merely through words that the Gentile midwife was establishing herself. In other words, she was bragging in order to intimidate her antagonist, whereas in reality, she did not kill any infants. So this gets to that. just an interesting idea arises from this. So, in other words, the rabbis understand it's not easy living among Gentiles. And we have to navigate, we have to be able to survive. And maybe we should establish a midwife school. I don't know, like in a day, 100 years ago. Why are there all these Jewish hospitals in all these metropolitan areas across the United States? Because there was a quota for Jews being allowed, not allowed. And why are there Jewish medical schools? Because there are Jews not allowed into medical school, right? So Jewish community provides for its own needs when they can, and they have the money to do so. So perhaps at this time, they didn't have the means necessary to train enough Jewish midwives so that we could be self-reliant. So if you're not going to be self-reliant, then you have to utilize the services of Gentiles. And Rabbi Meir, being a very, very strict here, not wanting to bend in any way, to have anything to do with non-Jews, perhaps, says, no, you can't trust a Gentile for anything. Even if there are people around watching over, this Gentile woman is going to kill this baby. Whereas the rabbis are acknowledging here a couple of things. First, that you got to do what you got to do in order to survive, and even if it means relying on non-Jews to do work for you in this regard, birthing babies. And secondly, I think the rabbis are also acknowledging another aspect of human of humanity. That is, I'm blanking on the phrase here. That people are by nature prejudiced, discriminatory, bigoted. People by nature are bigoted. And so the fact that these Gentile women are talking in the marketplace, insulting each other, saying, how dare you work you're a midwife who works for Jews, the daughter of a midwife who works for Jews. So people talk, and people when people tell jokes about other people, back in the day when I was growing up, Polish jokes, Italian jokes were all the rage, and people would tell jokes like that and claim, oh no, some of my best friends are such and such. I still remember this. My freshman year of rabbinical school, Archbishop Desmond Tutu had just won the Nobel Peace Prize the year before, and he came to speak to the Jewish Theological Seminary. And his speech started, I swear, some of my best friends are Jews. I could not believe that the Archbishop who won the Nobel Peace Prize started his speech like that. So it's kind of like that. The rabbis are recognizing people talk like that. And so just because they talk like that doesn't mean they mean it. So you kind of acknowledge that people are people, and they're going to convey certain certain beliefs, and they may not really understand what they're saying. They may not really believe what they're saying, but it's common to share stories like this and preconceived ideas and stereotypes. So it's okay. So the rabbis are willing to give in and acknowledge that these stereotypes exist. And Rabbi Meir says, you know what? I'm not willing to step on that slippery slope. I want to stay far away from Gentiles as much as possible. So I think it's interesting how through these stories that we can possibly delve deeper and understand what's getting at the motivations here of Rabbi Meir and the rabbis.
Is that Rabbi Meir's general approach?
We don't know. I'm not sure. Rabbi Meir tends to be Anonymous Mishnahs tend to be from Rabbi Meir, and he's the teacher of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, and who's the editor of the Mishnah. So he doesn't tend to be, he tends to be a little bit more moderate when it comes to Jewish law, but you can be moderate about law, but you can be pretty right wing about an attitude to others. So I really don't know. His student, one of his students was the apostate Elisha ben Abuya. And there, the novel that's written about Elisha ben Abuya as a driven leaf kind of highlights perhaps how Meir tried to be as open as possible to Elisha ben Abuya, not turn him away completely from the Jewish world. So maybe you're nicer towards Jewish apostates than you would be to Gentiles. I don't know.
He doesn't have a reputation for being the strict one, the way Hill and Shammai, for example.
Right. So Shammai tends to be strict. Rabbi Yishmael tends to be strict, but those strict about Jewish law, but strict about your attitude towards non-Jews, don't know. Okay. So now the red S about talking about the nursing. The Mishnah teaches that a Jewish woman may not nurse the child of a Gentile woman. The sages taught a Jewish woman may not nurse the child of a Gentile woman because in doing so, she's effectively raising a child who will engage in idol worship. And one may not allow a Gentile woman to nurse the child of a Jewish woman because she's suspected of bloodshed. This is a statement of Rabbi Meir. So it's another parallel. So here's another opinion that's different from our Mishnah, in which Rabbi Meir is saying, no, even though the Mishnah says a Gentile woman is allowed to nurse a Jewish child, Meir says no, because the Gentile woman is suspected of bloodshed. And in other words, you're nursing the child, she could suffocate the child or whatever. And the rabbis say one may allow a Gentile woman to nurse the child of a Jewish woman when other women are standing over her, but not when the Gentile woman is alone with the child. So you can have a Gentile woman in your house, according to the rabbis, nurse the child to however old a child is nursed, as long as the Gentile woman is never alone with the child. So always have to be other people around. And Rabbi Meir says, even when other women are standing over her, one may not allow a Gentile woman to nurse a child because there are times when she smears poison intended for him upon her breast when she is outside the house and subsequently kills him with it while nursing. Okay, so this would be the way, according to Rabbi Meir, how much the Gentile woman hates and wants to kill Jews, that she would be willing to put a poison on her breast and sneak that in and then cause the child while nursing to actually suck poison and die. Okay, so how great is Meir's fear of Gentiles that Gentile women would do this. The Gemara remarks, what?
Is there any historical
basis
for this?
Who knows?
Stories like this, somebody told somebody, urban legend kind of things usually arise from something.
Right. So I don't know. We don't have, as far as I know, outside of the Mishnah and the Talmud, which is not reliable because the Mishnah and Talmud is not written as a history book. It's written as a law book, and a law book that includes stories to kind of highlight the law, but you can't count on the stories being true. There's certain elements that say, maybe a circumstance like this is common, but is it true that Gentiles are actually want to murder Jews? Well, I don't know. You have the Torah with what we're reading in the Torah right now, in the Torah reading cycle, Pharaoh making an edict commanding midwives to kill Jewish babies. So perhaps this is what this whole idea is based on. But in reality, Rabbi Meir is living in Israel in the 2nd century CE under harsh Roman rule. Emperor Hadrian is the one in 135 to totally level the Temple Mount, right? So the General Titus in 70 destroyed the temple, left it in ruins. Hadrian leveled the Temple Mount and built a Roman temple on the spot and enacted harsher anti-Jewish decrees than ever before. So it's in this time that Jews are living in the land of Israel. So if there are harsh decrees like this that come down from on high, it's like I would imagine as a Jew living in Nazi Germany, if the Nazis enact laws for the state that are anti-Jewish, then it only inspires the average German to be anti-Semitic, right? If the state allows it, then I'm going to be anti-Semitic too. Right? So perhaps people living in the land of Israel under Roman Empire saying, the Roman governor representing the Caesar saying that these are the laws that have to be followed, well, I'll take advantage and I'll be that way too. So it is possible that this is the fear that Jews had of Gentiles. And the rabbis perhaps are saying, we have to, it's better to trust human nature, and women don't want to kill babies. That's just women of Roman women, Jewish women, all kinds of women don't want to kill babies, and the rabbis are willing to trust women that way, whereas Meir is too much affected by the Roman Empire and these laws and situation that he's not willing to trust women. Perhaps I'm just guessing here. I don't know. We don't know what the reality is. So the Gemara remarks, and it is necessary for the dispute between Rabbi Meir and the rabbis to be stated with regard to both the case of a midwife and that of a wet nurse. The reason is, right, so in other words, if you already know that you can't have a midwife, why shouldn't that apply to everything that you would ask a Gentile to do for you to help raise your children? So why do we need the same thing being taught about midwives and nursemaids? The reason is that if the Tana, that is the rabbi of the Mishnah, had taught us only the halacha of a midwife, one might assume that it is only in that case that the rabbi said that it's permitted to allow the Gentile to deliver a Jewish infant because it's not possible for her to kill him due to the fact that other women see her. But with regard to a wet nurse, as it's possible that she might smear poison upon her breast while she's still outside the house and then kill him with it, one might say that the rabbis concede to Rabbi Meir that a Gentile woman may not be allowed to nurse the son of a Jewish woman under any circumstances. And if the Tana had taught us only the halacha of a wet nurse, one might assume that it's only in that case that Rabbi Meir said that it's prohibited for a Gentile to nurse a Jewish infant, due to the fact that she might smear poison upon her breast while outside the house and kill him with it. But with regard to a midwife, since it's not possible for her to kill him where other women are standing over her, one might say that Rabbi Meir concedes to the rabbis. The Gemara concludes it's therefore necessary for this dispute to be stated with regard to both cases. Okay, so we need us to know that the situations are different enough to warrant us teaching about these two cases, about midwifery and being a nursemaid. Okay, so now, based on the above discussion, all agree that a Jewish woman may not deliver the child of a Gentile woman. And Right. So that everybody agrees you're not allowed to do because you're aiding and abetting idolatry. And the Gemara raises a contradiction from a Baraita. A Jewish woman may deliver the child of an Aramean woman in exchange for payment, but not for free. Rav Yosef said in response, so if it's not allowed, why do we have this Baraita, something from the same time as the Mishnah, but outside the Mishnah, that says you can do it for a fee, but not for free? Rav Yosef said in response, it's permitted in exchange for payment due to the enmity that would be engendered if Jews refused to deliver Gentile infants despite being offered money to do so. All right, so it's one thing to say, you can get away with saying I can't do it for free because I'm not skilled enough or whatever. But if it's known you're a midwife and you're being offered money, then you got to take the money and you have to do it because it's going to just make matters worse for relations between Jews and non-Jews. So there is that element too, because the rabbis are always concerned about keeping the peace, and if it gets out that that Jews refuse payments from non-Jews, there could be hell to pay, literally. So
Aram was really
Aramean.
was really part of Babylonian rather than right?
So let's just see. There's no note here about who these Arameans could be.
Aram.
Yeah, there isn't. So it's unclear. Is it a woman? So an Aramean woman. There are people who spoke Aramaic all around the land of Israel. Just one second here. Yeah. There are people who speak Aramaic all around the Middle East at the time of the Roman Empire. So it just became, I don't know how, but it became a common language. So so is it a tribal woman? Is it? It's not a Roman woman. The rabbis would have said Roman woman. So who is this? A non-Jewish villager who speaks Aramaic? Are they idolaters? I don't know exactly who they are. No, but the Aramean from the time of the Torah is not this. I don't think so. This is about the language they're speaking.
Okay.
Yeah. So Rav Yosef thought to say, delivering the child of a Gentile woman on Shabbat in exchange for payment is permitted due to enmity. So that's on Shabbat. Abaye said to him, the concern of enmity does not apply here because she can say to the Gentile, with regard to our own women who keep Shabbat, we desecrate Shabbat for them. With regard to your women who do not keep Shabbat, we do not desecrate Shabbat for them. So you could argue, it's one thing for us to violate Shabbat for our own community. We can't violate Shabbat for people not in our community. But again, the other side is for the sake of enmity, for the concern of enmity, even on Shabbat, you should do it. Rav Yosef also thought to say nursing the child of a Gentile woman in exchange for payment is permitted due to enmity. Abaye said to him, the concern of enmity does not apply because she can say, if she is unmarried, I wish to get married. And if she is a married woman, she may say, I do not wish to become repulsive to my husband, since she can provide a reasonable excuse for refusing to nurse a Gentile child. The concern of enmity does not apply. So there are legitimate excuses that some say that the Jewish woman can use that won't lead to enmity with the non-Jewish, with the Gentile world. So do you want to risk these excuses, or do you want to just say it's okay in these cases Don't worry about coming up with an excuse. It's okay to do this if there's money involved. So the rabbis are navigating how to relate with non-Jews, and is it willing to risk excuses or not? Rav Yosef thought to say a similar idea concerning that which is taught in a Baraita with regard to Gentiles and shepherds of small domesticated animals. One may not raise them out of a pit, and one may not lower them into a pit. Rav Yosef suggested that even so, it's permitted to raise them from the pit in exchange for payment due to enmity. So another, why people would be sharing animals and raising them communally, I don't know. So I don't know how that worked on farms in ancient times. Did people share grazing areas and milking stations and things like that? And you just don't want to mix non-Jewish animals with Jewish animals. Right, and then raise them. So raise them from a pit or lower them into a pit. I don't know why you would lower an animal into the pit. What would be down there? Don't know. Abaye said to him, "It's prohibited to raise a Gentile from a pit, even in exchange for payment, because one can say an excuse to him, such as, 'My son is standing on the roof, and I must go use this ladder to help him down from the roof.' Alternatively, he can say to him, 'A time has been appointed for me to appear in the courthouse, and I must attend to this matter.' Since the Jew can provide a legitimate excuse for refusing to aid the Gentile, there is no need to extract him from a pit." So Abaye lived in Babylonia in like the late 300s, early 400s, and he's saying, no, don't help Gentiles. And don't know about how bad the Persians were, or the Babylonians were to the Jews at that time. But Abaye is being strict here and saying you can come up with excuses of why you can't help a Gentile in distress. Apropos the notion of raising someone from or lowering him into a pit, the rabbi notes the Rabbi Abahu taught the following while standing before Rabbi Yochanan. With regard to Gentiles and shepherds of domesticated animals, one may not raise them from a pit, and one may not lower them into a pit. But the heretics and the informers and the apostates are lowered into a pit, but not raised out of it. So there are different categories of people. Gentiles are totally not Jews. Heretics, informers, and apostates are Jews who have kind of left the fold in some way. So you can lower them into a pit, but not raise them from the pit. So here's the halacha on the side here about the heretics and the informers. It's a mitzvah to completely annihilate heretics and informers because they are the bane of the Jewish people and steer the chosen nation away from God. The halachic authorities write that these directives with regard to heretics and apostates were issued only to protect the nation from spiritual harm. The Chazon Ish is a name for the book that one rabbi wrote, writes that since nowadays taking such harsh actions would be pointless and counterproductive, it's incumbent upon the Jewish people to do everything in their power to reach out to such Jews with love and kindness so that they return to the light of Torah. So heretics, informers, and apostates, I must say, that there are Jews known throughout the Middle Ages to have converted to Christianity, who then work for either the Christian church or the Christian government to inform on Jews. That is a thing. And also, there are times in Christian Spain where the king or the local official would have kind of a public dispute between the Jew and the Christian about which religion is the truer religion. And sometimes a Jew who converted to Christianity would be the one to represent the Christian church in this. So there is a literature of Jews who have converted to Christianity who then speak against the Jewish community. So it is a thing, and if there aren't a lot of them, then the Jewish community can afford to be anti these people. But it's interesting in the note with the Chazon Ish, as Europe opens its doors, like opens the ghetto walls and allow Jews to live more freely, then there are going to be more so-called Jewish heretics and apostates, Jews who just choose not to be Jewish anymore. And then there's nothing you can do to stop the tide. And so the Chazon Ish is recognizing, rather than turn ourselves away from them and keep them out of the community and enact laws that forbid any encounter with them, better to try to bring them back into the fold. So just fascinating here to open just to raise the issue of heretics, informers, and apostates in the community. So in other words, there are always Jews who, because of about living with non-Jews, where non-Jews are the majority and it's an oppressive society, there are always going to be Jews who are going to try to be as safe as possible, even to the point of being an apostate, so that you can live freely. So Julian and then Michael.
You said that informers are former Jews ratting on
Jews who tattletale to the government in order to curry favor, so that they can think that they will live freely.
What about Jews who tattle on other Jews?
That's what I'm talking about. I think that's what these informers are. Jews are tattling on Jews to the government, to the non-Jewish government. That's what the informer is.
And that was encouraged.
Not necessarily encouraged. Well, it could have been encouraged by the non-Jewish government, like they could have paid people within the Jewish community to inform on other Jews. They could have.
What about informing within the Jewish community? I mean, I saw so-and-so eating pepperoni pizza last weekend.
No, Jews didn't do that.
Okay.
Jews didn't do that. Yeah. No, this is from the other non-Jewish government paying Jews to inform on Jews.
Okay, gotcha.
Michael.
The Chazon Ish was 1878 to 1953.
Right.
So this is
modern times. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. He's from a time when it's Jews are citizens of other countries, and then there are lots of apostates. There are lots of apostates today, technically, within the Jewish community. And what are we going to do? Close our doors to apostates? Then there'd be a lot of empty buildings around. So the idea being that this modern rabbi, the Chazon Ish, a well-respected rabbi, saying we need to be welcoming, not turning people away. Two more paragraphs here, and then we'll call it a day today. Rabbi Yochanan said to Rabbi Abahu, I teach that the verse, and so you shall do with every lost item of your brother, serves to include the apostate in one's obligation to return a lost item to another Jew. And you say that one may lower him into a pit? Remove the term apostate from here. So in other words, interesting, Yochanan is saying to Abahu, I see apostates as lost items, and we want to try to return lost items to their original owner. We want to return apostates to God. Okay, so that's interesting that Yochanan is teaching that. The Gemara asks, and let Rabbi Abahu answer Rabbi Yochanan as follows. Here, with regard to a lost item, the verse includes an apostate because it's referring to an apostate who eats non-kosher meat due to his appetite. That is, he succumbs to the temptation. Conversely, there, with regard to raising an apostate from a pit, I'm referring to an apostate who eats non-kosher meat to express insolence. The Gemara answers, Rabbi Abahu holds that one who eats non-kosher meat to express insolence is a heretic rather than an apostate. So we can get into the discussion about the difference between a heretic and an apostate, but so someone who violates the law because they intend to violate the law and to snub God, that's a heretic. To violate the law because it's convenient or you're hungry is not, it doesn't make you a heretic, it makes you an apostate or weak-willed or whatever. Okay, we'll continue this discussion next time about apostates and heretics and their effect on the Jewish community. We'll stop here for today, and let me just stop sharing. And hope everybody has a good rest of the day. Stay warm and stay safe, and take care, everybody.
Good luck on your grandchild.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah.
Thank you.
Basta Thank
Thanks.
you, Jonah.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.